We call to order the meeting for September 21st, Thursday, 2023. We have a hybrid situation going here with Christy, myself, and Ian in person, and Hola, Donna, and Alma joining us remotely. Ian?
So pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this meeting will be conducted in person and via remote means in accordance with applicable law. This means that members of the public, as well as members of the public, may access this meeting in person or via virtual means. In-person attendance will be at the location above, that is to say Memorial Hall of the City of the Town Hall. And it's possible that all members of the public body may attend remotely with in-person attendance consisting of members of the public. This meeting may be accessed remotely via Zoom as published in the agenda.
All right, so let's start with, we're going to do open forum first. So we do have a member in the audience?
No, not open forum.
All right. So we can move to the next item in our agenda, which is the proposed purchase of 1500 Union Street and future community center. I'm amusing, we assume we have our presenter here. Yeah.
I'll step up.
Yes, like you always do, for every task.
Thank you. Okay, let me just pull up. Okay. All right. Okay, so the first agenda item is I have a presentation to go through. This is a presentation that was provided to at the select board meeting by the town manager last week when it was publicly announced that the town has an opportunity to purchase 1500 Union Street, also known as the Boston Sports Club building. The proposed use of that facility would be a community center. Here today as well is our recreation director, Jen Kirkland. Jen will be able to probably round out and answer some questions. We're looking at the building. It's a 2-story building, and the proposed use as a community center would be potentially recreation facility on the upper floor with a senior center area on the lower floor. So just in terms of the idea and the concept of a community center, this is something that has been discussed for well over a decade now in town. While this just became public last week at the board's meeting, the board has been throughout the summer in executive session, having discussions with the property owner, negotiating the purchase price. So that's all been done in executive session. And the board is now at the point where they are able to sign a purchase and sale agreement. That is all subject to approval of the purchase and funding at town meeting, which is coming up on October 16th. So with a relatively short window from last week to October 16th, we are taking the opportunity in as many venues as we're able to provide this presentation, understand what questions may be, and just try to get additional information out to the community because it is a significant item that will be before the community at town meeting. So going back to just in terms of planning and the idea of a community center, there's a lot of words on these first few slides. It's really intended to go back and look at later, but it's pulled from various plans over the years. This was identified in 2012 when the town was considering renovating the Forbes Municipal Building, which is across the street from where we are today. Prior to the renovations, there was a gymnasium in the building that the Recreation Department programmed and used for rec programming. With the renovation of that building, the gym was lost while it was contemplated. This is a drawing of a proposed gym that was contemplated that never came to fruition. So with the renovations of that building, we lost that facility. Did that cover it? So in addition, the town's 2018 strategic plan identified the design and building of an intergenerational community center with activities for all ages as something that came up in discussions with the community. So that was 2018. Under our open space and recreation plan, there is a goal related to open space and recreation goal under the 2021 master plan that would speak to investigating the feasibility of a multi-generational, multi-use community center. And again, these slides are available on the website, so if someone's interested in looking more closely at them. And then this is also something that was prepared by the previous recreation director at the time that the town was contemplating the purchase of the former Westborough State Hospital property. Discussion about the ability to use a portion of that property to support a community center with this picture. This conceptual drawing depicts both a community center as well as shows how some fields and other recreation space could be laid out around that building. So this was really just to show that it's feasible to put something on that site. Something we've talked about here at the Diversity and Inclusion Committee, the recent completion of the senior needs assessment. We heard from seniors about their interest in further exploring a community center. We did get down to asking about interest, if it would be space that's senior only, intergenerational. So there is survey data. A significant proportion of the respondents were interested in an all-ages community center, but we also heard loud and clear that a significant number of seniors want some designated or dedicated space for senior-specific activities. Again, that's our 2023, our most recent needs assessment. In addition, that needs assessment identified, well, we do have a senior center in town that provides a wide array of programming. There were some limitations identified in terms of the existing physical space, both in terms of the amount of space, the layout of the building, the age of the building, as well as some things came up in terms of access to that facility, and that as people enter or exit, specifically exiting the property, it's a left-hand turn that can be often difficult to make when there's a lot of traffic. And well, it's not too far outside of downtown. That building is located outside of the downtown area. So this photo shows the Bay State Common. If you look at it, the building in the foreground of the picture is the 1500 Union Street, which is the Boston Sports Club building. So it's really looking over Bay State Common. And one of the, so it's, can you see that? Yeah, you can see the cursor. So that's the building. The senior needs assessment spoke to both the interest in expanded space for programming opportunities, but it also spoke to physical access to other community assets. And we believe that this building provides an opportunity, given its location in the downtown area, given other efforts going on related to downtown revitalization, things like walkability access to other venues in the area, other retail establishments that are in the in that location, in that shopping plaza, as well as proximity to some resources in the downtown, the library, municipal buildings, other restaurants, retail, all of those types of things. It also, I think, speaks to, we hear a lot about transportation issues and access to transportation. Where the building is located doesn't solve all of the transportation issues, but again, it does create, it's a more central access to the downtown, and from a transportation provider standpoint, that may enhance opportunities for participation in programming in that location. Anything else, Jen? Again, I've mentioned in terms of economic development goals, the master plan also does speak to revitalization of the downtown, drawing people into the downtown. This supports many of those goals that are identified in terms of walkability. Students from schools can get there for after-school programming. We're looking at, again, that sort of mixed-use development and the idea that individuals who are visiting, if visiting that building, have access to a variety of other services in the area. Again, the pedestrian and the ability to enhance, potentially reduce vehicle traffic, enhance pedestrian use of pedestrian facilities. We think this building provides opportunities for that. In terms of the building itself, this is a photograph. Again, many people are familiar, refer to it as the Boston Sports Club building. That is what is currently located on the second floor. The first floor, originally Steinmart was located there. It has been vacant, although right now, seasonally, Spirit Halloween locates there. Sets up their operation, sells Halloween costumes, so they are currently in that lower level. The first floor is about 31,000 square feet, and then the second floor is just over, it's about 32,500 square feet. While that second floor has currently right now functions as a gym, there are some dedicated rooms, there's a pool, we have some pictures we'll look at, but the equipment that is currently there is not part of the sale, so that would come out and we would have some significant space that Jen has lots of ideas about how to use, but then there is a pool, there is an indoor basketball court, there are some other rooms that are already carved out, if you will. That lower level is pretty much a blank slate at this point. It's just open space. So the the purchase price is $8.8 million. Again, it's a almost 64,000 square foot building. So that equates to about $139 per square foot. Current estimates, if the town were to try to construct something of this size, it would equate to about over $50 million. Understanding we might not build quite that large, but just for a point of reference, over $50 million to build something that size. So one of the questions that we've heard and anticipated in terms of this purchase price of $8.8 million, what is the impact on the taxpayer? So making some assumptions about borrowing that money over 20 years at 5%. The current estimate is $68 on the average single-family tax bill in the highest year. That number isn't the same over the 20-year borrow, but those are the highest years. We would expect it to equate to 68. I do want to recognize we are talking about the purchase price. There's additional cost related to fit up of the building. We'll talk a little bit more about that and what that process might be. But again, that $8.8 million, we recognize that is strictly the purchase price. There would be some additional cost associated with fit up of the building. Jen, jump in at any time. So at this point, as I've mentioned, there is an article on the Fall Town Meeting warrant to do a couple of things, to authorize the board to purchase the property, to authorize borrowing, and to fund some work related to determining how we would use the facility. So we anticipate engaging the community in a process, probably a charrette type of process, to understand what the interests are. Again, we're contemplating that the upper level would be used for a recreation center, recreation facility, with the lower level being dedicated senior center space. And we anticipate that this is also, we would hear from the public on other proposed uses for that space, for public space, and how we would, how the community has an interest in using that building. So again, talking about relocating the rec offices to the upper level and then relocating the senior center from its current location to that lower level. And just for comparison, you'll see there's a photo and some information. The current senior center is just about 8,600 square feet. So we're talking about just 31,000 square feet, so more than 3 times the space in that new proposed facility. And the current senior center, as I mentioned earlier, it was built in 1989. So regardless of what happens, we have identified that there's a need for some attention to that building. These slides just show where the facility is located within Bay State Common, and I think I do have, this shows that we are purchasing, we would be purchasing both the building, and there is parking around the building that we would purchase. We have, the agreement also includes, it's a reciprocal agreement related to parking. So we would have access to parking spaces in the rest of that, that area. And then similarly, our parking spaces, the town's parking spaces, could be used by others in that area. So these are just building layout, doesn't show a lot. This is the layout of that first floor. At this point, as I mentioned, this is really just wide open space. And then we have on the second floor, and I think we have some pictures that will better illustrate this. As I mentioned, there is a pool, there is an indoor basketball court, and then there are some other rooms that are multi-purpose rooms, I think. So again, this is what it looks like currently. These photos really show, for folks who haven't been in there, if you walk in, the desk is immediately in front of you. And then this, while there's a lot of equipment there right now, when you remove the equipment, this would be open space, quite large area of open space. And this is the pool that I've mentioned a few times, the existing basketball court, and here's another room. And this, the picture in the upper right, this is the one, there's a lot of light in that upper level. This looks out onto the rest of the property. There is a break room, there's a meeting room, and then there are a couple of small, they're office spaces. It's I guess cubicle type of space right now. So I guess what we're really showing here, while I mentioned that the lower level is open, the upper level, given the way that space is currently laid out, it's feasible that the recreation department could move right in with minimal fit up, start running programs out of that space. So just to revisit next steps, October town meeting, there is a warrant article. So it will do 4 things. It authorizes the select board to acquire the property and to borrow for the purchase price, which again, the actual purchase price is 8.8 million. It also would allow the town to appropriate funding to replenish budgets that have been used to do some due diligence, some engineering evaluations, some other things as we've been negotiating the purchase and sale agreement. And then it would also appropriate any funding identified for a community engagement process, which again, that's the probably charrette type of process to understand how the community would like to see the space used. We would anticipate that through that community engagement process, that would yield ideas about layout of the senior center space and preferred uses of that space. Again, it's significantly larger than what we have today, so I think it really affords the opportunity to think differently or to pull in space for a variety of things that we don't currently offer or do. So as I mentioned, there are some areas of the building we could probably move right into and begin programming and running programs out of. But then we would likely need to come back with a future town meeting warrant article to seek funding for whatever fit up is needed for that primarily lower level. Again, this just is the timeline. So the board is potentially executing the purchase and sale agreement at an upcoming meeting. They meet this week. Then in October at town meeting, we'll be asking the town to authorize the purchase and the funding, as I just mentioned. Our plan for the community engagement process, we would engage someone, potentially an architect, to do that in the late fall or early winter. And then we would be looking to close on the property in the spring of 2024. And that's about the time we would engage the consultant and actually begin that community engagement piece, with the expectation that by the fall of 2024, we would have a sense of what we would need in terms of funding to fit up the building. And we'd be back to town meeting for that request. And then our hope would be that late 24, early 2025, that construction would be begun and completed. Jen, do you want to add? So, again, Jen's the recreation director. Alma is here as well. Would be happy, to hear Alma's thoughts. I think one of the reasons we wanted to bring it to this committee would be interested in hearing your thoughts, questions that you may have. I know we've been talking about the ability for the town to provide service delivery in a more inclusive manner. I think there are just a lot of ideas and things that we could do were this building to come online. And I think I'm just looking to hear your thoughts, questions, and we're working to pull together questions with the understanding that, a lot of people will have questions, and as much as we can be well prepared to address those at town meeting, that's helpful.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to give both Jen and Alma an opportunity because they've both been involved in these discussions, the purchase of the building, and if the intended use moves forward as we've proposed, will affect both of their departments. So Alma, Jen?
Is she still muted?
Hi, I'm Jen Kirkland, the Recreation Director, as Kim mentioned. So just a little bit about our department. Currently, right now, we don't have any of our own space besides our offices downstairs. So any programming that we do, we have to use the schools or outdoor facilities. We have great partners in the schools, but they have their own programs and procedures. So we're limited, and we're only able to get into the schools at 6 p.m. or later. And on the weekends, we have to pay for a custodian to be there if we wanted to run any type of weekend programming. Obviously, when school is in session, we can't run any daytime programming, so any kind of like parent and me classes, even kind of some senior activities, we just don't have the flexibility to do any of that stuff during the day. School vacation weeks, we can't offer any type of camp-style programs, things like that. Again, because we don't have our own space. When we had the Forbes gym across the street, before they redid that building, we had a small gym in there, but we used it a ton for more than just basketball. We ran a paint night in there. We did little toddler classes and things. Just having a dedicated indoor space is just so beneficial to our department. So I have a lot of ideas of how we could program this space. You know, just like the things I just mentioned right off the bat, we could start just doing more daytime programming, parent and me classes, special guest speakers, you know, some more senior fitness. Somebody reached out to me recently and was asking about where they could play indoor pickleball. With that gym, we could line the floor with floor tape, and we could line it for pickleball and offer that. The list can go on and on. We're also going to be leaning into that community engagement piece as well to hear what the town would like us to offer. We're open to anything. Another big piece is the pool. With the struggle that I've had finding lifeguards in the summer, we haven't been able to offer any type of swim lessons. Now having this pool, we would be able to offer that program. And you might be thinking, well, you just said you can't find lifeguards for your beach. How are you going to find them for a pool? The vendor that works currently with Boston Sports Club has already reached out to me, and apparently you can contract lifeguards and swim lesson teachers and CPOs and all of that. So that is something that, while at the beginning I was thinking I'd have to sort of get creative, that's something I think we could confidently start right away. So I'm very excited about the opportunity. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have specifically about the rec department and what we do. And just a note too, in regards to Alma and her programs, we always work really well together, so us being in the same building just makes sense. She'd have her space on the bottom floor, we'd have our space on the top floor, but there would be natural overlap between both of our departments. And I think it's just a fantastic opportunity for the town.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a chat.
Are we unmuting Alma?
I have a question for Jen.
Yep, I'm here.
In addition to the gym that's inside, are you planning to build another outdoor basketball court? Because I know kids have a lot of games and practices, so I don't know how one gym would work.
Sure.
Is there any plans to build an outdoor gym too?
No.
A basketball court.
No, we don't have any plans to build any outdoor facilities at this time. We would still have to use the school, so we run a very large rec basketball program. We offer basketball for kids in grades pre-K all the way through 12th grade in high school. So that gym, you're right, that would not be able to house all of a program that large. We would still need to partner with the schools. But things like an open gym or a small basketball camp on a February vacation, we could easily use that gym for that.
Okay, thank you.
Kim, I think Alma had put a chat here that they're mowing the lawn outside her office, so if she needs to answer anything, to let her know.
I have a couple of questions for Kim, and we can meet for Alma.
Okay.
So you mentioned how over time different properties were considered for this time period. Was any other property considered other than this one?
At this point in time?
Like in the past 3 years or so, because I know this.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think the primary thought over the past several years has been to build at the former the state hospital property.
Oh, okay.
One thing I think that has been a criticism of that plan. While we own the property and there is a lot of space there, I think concern has been expressed about its location and proximity and kind of on where it's located. A lot of people would have to get in their car and drive.
Yeah.
So while it's a beautiful location, just proximity for many people in town.
Oh, I'm in this location.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
But
as
the
far
Rotary,
Because the way this one came up, the new owners who bought Bay State Common approached the town manager, with this idea of selling the building to the town. So just the way this opportunity arose, there has not been really an evaluation of other facilities. I think there are many things about this that are unique.
Okay. And there are talks about improving the traffic flow at the Rotary after something like this?
I think that has been a discussion even separate from this
Yeah.
building purchase. But yeah, I think a lot of master plan and even in some of the economic development conversations, traffic always comes up.
Of course. One question for you. Any plans of renting this space to people outside of the town, like town members, if they want to?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the programs that we could start probably semi-immediately would be, birthday parties. We have 2 outdoor pavilions that are rented pretty regularly, and we don't offer anything. It's literally just a pavilion.
Yep.
And people often rent those for birthday parties. So I think we have that break room is, I think they even call it like their party room. So that room right there is already ready-made, and it'd be staff birthday party. So someone that's able to run parties, so kind of keep people on task. So definitely that's something, our plan. I think there's meeting space that we've talked about being available for people. So for sure, I think even pool rentals could be part of, maybe birthday parties, things like that. I think there's a lot of opportunity.
Thank you.
Can I ask, what's the major driver for the sale here? It seems that if Boston Sports Club haven't been able to make this a viable business, then why do we think that we can?
I'm sorry, I don't know if you have an answer.
No, I guess I'm not understanding the question.
Okay. Why do they want to sell this? Does the Boston Sports Club want to continue with their business, or is it not
They're
viable?
a tenant.
Sorry?
They are a tenant in the building. They don't own the building. So
Right.
the owner of the property, that lower level, my understanding is that lower level has been vacant for
That's the,
years. And the efforts to, when that property was purchased, the new property owners are interested in creating that whole area becoming really vibrant, and they see selling that building to the town for the purposes that we're talking about is really enhancing the vibrancy, I think, for the balance of the property as well.
do we have an estimate of what the traffic through that building might be, and what sort of numbers of people might be visiting, and how much that might impact on the downtown area? Or
We don't at this point. I think what we have, I think that could potentially be part of the modeling and the charrette process, understanding. I think probably the best information that we have right now is the use at our existing senior center facility. And we could also probably do some modeling once we have a sense of what types of programming might be offered at that facility, but we don't have that data right now.
okay, does the current senior centre belong to the town, or is that a rented property?
The town owns that building.
And are the costs that we're seeing here for this offset against the savings from the senior centre, or what will the senior centre be used for?
That's to be determined. I think that would be a discussion, depending on, the building could be sold. It could be, I'm not aware of another municipal use, but those are all things that, I think at the point at which we know that the sale is going forward, obviously, this building would have to be up and functioning as a senior center before we could do anything with the existing senior center. But that is a question that's come up, and certainly something that would be looked at.
Okay. And so layered onto that is our experience with the library upgrade proposal, and how that was not approved at the town meeting. And yet here we've got a whole range of different questions that are unanswered. Included the costs, and public engagement is supposed to happen after we get approval to buy the property, right? Whereas it just seems to me that all of these things should be happening before we decide to buy it or ask for permission to buy it.
And we understand that those are questions that people have. Part of this is because of the nature of the transaction with a private seller. I mean, they have an interest in moving this forward. So that's the constraint. Whereas if it's a building project, we're a bit of a driver of that timeline differently than we are in this, where it's a purchase from a private entity of an existing building. So we understand the optics and the challenges that presents, and so that's where we're just trying to be as transparent that we don't yet know what those costs are. And again, I think they are likely more significant for that lower level that we would anticipate using as a senior center versus, as we've talked about, rec could probably move in and start programming immediately. Just one of the things we've also had conversation and talked about is some of our programs are revenue generating. So there are many opportunities for revenue generating programs in the recreation department. So from a self-sufficient, at a minimum, the programming could be self-sufficient. Certain programs could be self-sufficient, but it could also support the operation of that building. We're not there yet in terms of working all of that out, but that's certainly, we've had discussions about that.
It seems likely to me, again, given the library experience, that there's likely to be a strong conservative group of people marshal either in favour or against this, and that's something that needs to be addressed in advance of the town meeting rather than afterwards. You mentioned, Jen, the pickleball. I was having exactly this discussion this morning with people, a chilly fall morning suddenly, and people are starting to look to winter. Where are they going to play pickleball? And, you know, they're the sorts of people that could be engaged in advance of that town meeting to lend support to this sort of idea. Yes.
And that's, we have been, again, recognizing that this being public as of last week, which leaves of just about a month, we have taken advantage of every opportunity to get out and share this. We're here today. We've been to the Council on Aging. We've been out in the community. So one thing I do want to note is the slides are available on the town's website, right under Town News on the home page. There are recordings. This is being recording. The town manager's presentation to the select board is recorded by Westborough TV as well. So even if people can't make it to a meeting to hear about it, hope that they can glean some useful information from the slide deck or watching one of those recorded.
Of course, there's one important meeting they need to be able to attend, yeah? The town meeting.
Yes,
I think
October
Alma has
16th.
something to say.
Yes, Alma.
Hi, just a little context for that. The senior center was opened in 1989, and at the time it was built for 20 years. We've now been here almost 35. At the time this building was built, we had 1,919 seniors in town, and as of the 2020 census, we now have 4,456. So we've more than doubled in size as far as the senior population goes. We've been aware for several years now that we desperately need more space here, not only so that we can expand some of our programs, but also that we can accommodate more people in the programs that we have. And knowing that this building is available, we could be here, we could be in that building within a couple of years if we were waiting to either build onto this building or build a whole new building on the other side of Route 9, which also has some issues attached to it. Quite frankly, it would probably be 6 or 8 or 10 more years before that gets done, and we really can't wait that long. So.
And it was my understanding from the senior survey that there was general support for not just a senior centre, but a community centre.
Yes.
Is this something that would be promoted in that way?
Yes, I think, let me see if I can just find. One of the takeaways for us, the survey results showed widespread support for a community center, but there's a strong interest in dedicated space for senior programming. So the idea of, as we're conceptualizing it now, senior center on the first floor, dedicated space for senior programs, and then the recreation center on the second floor, which could still offer programming available to seniors, multi-generational programming. The idea here is that seniors were interested in maintaining designated space for senior programming. I don't, Alma, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I mean, certainly having access to the pool and to the pickleball courts and other things like that, that opens us up to be able to offer things like water aerobics and senior swim time and pickleball, indoor pickleball. But I mean, certainly the whole building would be used, in fact, for the community, but yet we'd still be able to have enough room to increase some of our programs, definitely add some things that we'd like to do, or spaces that we'd like to have, but we just don't have room for up here. So, and I think certainly it would be marketed through the town as a community senior center building.
I think the idea is there might be times of day when there's programming specific for seniors, and then maybe in the evening hours, the space in that lower level is suitable for, community groups to use for meeting space or things like that. So I think that's really what they're talking about when they identify designated space. It doesn't mean it's only ever used by seniors. It just means at certain times, that's who has priority use.
Now, Kim, with respect, that graphic that you showed, the survey results, is a little distorted, right? Because the age groups aren't the same, right? And they give no indication of the different numbers of people within those age groups, right? So it has a message, but I don't believe the message, right? Do we have an idea of what the overall town view is on that exact same question? Do you understand what I mean there for a start, right? So you've got a 5-year window, a 10-year window, a 10-year window, and then an unknown window.
And this was, yes.
And then
this was pulled from the larger survey report, so that piece of the context is missing when it's pulled out. So
I get that, but overall town support, what does that look like?
In terms of town support
for a senior centre versus a community centre versus some sort of combination thereof?
The conversation is largely...
Kim, if you don't, I can work on that. I think that between the master plan, the strategic plan, and the senior needs assessment, it's become very clear that the town in general supports having some sort of a community center that can be used for all ages. And then from the senior piece, we also understood that there's not an issue with a community center, but that the seniors did want some of their own designated space just for senior programs. So I think that this isn't something new that's just come down the pike. This has been being discussed and talked about throughout the community for, like I said, now 3 or 4 surveys.
So it's been at that level, though, when asked questions and their interest, I think now it is actually before people with a price tag. So in terms of they may be in support of this concept, but now they actually have something in front of them with a price tag. And are they willing to pay that? Are they willing? That's sort of, I think, where we'll find that out.
But again, to my original point, we have a price tag, but we don't know what we're getting for that price tag.
Well, we know we're getting a 64,000 square foot building that has, at a minimum, that second floor space. Ready to be used.
But we had much greater definition for the library proposal. And that bombed because of the price tag.
Right.
And here we've got a price tag that admittedly is half, but it's like buying a pig in a poke, right? We don't know what we're getting.
Well, I think maybe just a thought, and I don't know if this is the track you're on. I might maybe disagree just a little bit, just because I think what we're getting is We have a very successful and vibrant rec department that would essentially move over there, that we would only be able to grow. We also have a very, successful and vibrant senior center that Alma's willing to grow. So I think when we talk about what we can do there, especially where I'm lucky on that second floor, we could move in tomorrow and we could have programming set up the very next day. It would be used, very, very quickly. So I think when we think of what we're getting space to offer what we currently do, our baseline, what we already do, plus add a great deal more that the town wants. And maybe I don't have a formal study, but just being here for 10 years, I really feel like I have a good pulse on the community and what they want. Someone was just in our office yesterday with a baby saying, I wish you had playgroup. And I said, I wish I could offer playgroup, but we just don't have the indoor space. People ask for indoor pickleball. People want more indoor volleyball. I can only give them one night a week at the schools, and it starts at 7:30. So I think the opportunity to already build on a pretty successful rec department portfolio is what we're getting. That would be my answer to that.
Yeah, I hope you understand that my positions are somewhat devil's advocacy.
No,
Appreciate
absolutely.
that.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
these are the questions we'll
But
get.
I really do believe that this is exactly the sort of confrontation that we're going to get in the town meeting.
So one of the things we are looking at, we've made some assumptions. Again, there will be a community engagement process to understand how that bottom floor would be fit up if we move forward with this purchase. But we are assuming, as a senior center, at a minimum, we'd have a commercial kitchen, because much of what happens, many of the programs, and then that also makes, that's something that could be used after hours as well. So we are working to get some estimates on certain aspects. Obviously, those would be rough numbers, but it will, to your point, it will be hard for some people to support this, not knowing, is it another 2 million? Is it another 4 million?
Right. So let me ask, of the 19,000-ish residents of Westborough, what number are involved in any of the rec department's activities? And what number are involved in the senior centre's activities? And I think that's going to start to put some clarity on who we need to talk to.
Right. Do you want to go first?
Sure. I don't have a number. I could get a number. And when you say talk to, do you mean tell them about this project? Or when you say talk to, I just want to try to give you the answer that you're looking for. So when you say talk to, do you mean engage to support this project, or?
Well, I think we need a baseline. And again, going back to the library proposal, this was the hard question that we were unable to have an answer to. Right? How many people in Westborough use the library?
I understand.
And how frequently?
I understand.
Right? And the answer was not forthcoming, and those people that were against it just jumped all over that.
Yeah, I could get you a number. Yeah, I don't have it today, right in front of me, but
But that's understanding. We have such limited space right now. We have many programs that people ask for that we can't offer because we don't have a place to offer them. And that happens both on the recreation side as well as on the senior center side.
Right.
We know Alma does have numbers on the numbers using the current senior center, but we also know we had over 1,500 respondents to our survey who were seniors. And we had a lot of information in there that it doesn't mean everybody who responded in certain ways will come to this center, but we had a clear message that there is an interest in expanded offerings, additional space, and something other than, we talk about programming for seniors not just being at the senior center, because you have many people in their 80s who view that as where old people go. So we're looking at this concept of the community center is being an enhanced offering. People will participate at the senior center, people will participate upstairs. So we've heard through all of these studies, but I can't tell you who will actually show up when the doors open.
Oh, no, of course not.
Right.
But if you've got the baseline, the number of inquiries, and then the projected increased capacity, and you can put numbers to that, obviously you don't need to be precise, right? But then all of the people are going to say, $68 a year, I'm not going to get value for that.
Right.
We'll have something to chew on.
Yeah. Alma, do you, you have a situation too, where many of your programs, it's both, you know how many people are coming through, but you also know there are times when you have to turn people away because your programs are full, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yesterday was a good example of that. We had Harvey Leonard here from Channel 5, and we had 150 signed up, and we had to turn away somewhere between 30, I don't know, 37, almost 40 people, because we just didn't have room for them. And the parking lot was packed to the rim, and there were cars parked all the way down the side of the room. I mean, it was just, and there are other days like that that we have, the day of the fair, the day of the veterans lunch, the day of the holiday party, the day of the St. Patrick's Day party. I mean, we only can take so many people because we can't sit anybody else in the building. So.
Yeah.
And one of the things we also, in addition to the specific programming, senior center programming, and recreation department programming, there is regularly a cry for more space for the community to have access to. And as you know, that was one of the things that
Absolutely.
the library was interested in providing. That is something that could happen over at this space. Right. And, you know, the opportunity for community groups to have access to space, we allow that now in our facilities. Community groups can effectively rent space, and so we would just have probably space that would better suit needs of many of the groups looking to do that.
Do we have a sense of how many members the sports club has and how much they pay? And do we imagine that we would charge for access to these facilities for town residents?
I don't think we have any information because they're a private business. That's not something that's been shared.
Because that's going to soften that $68 a household, right?
And we wouldn't charge for membership or anything, as right now, that's not my vision, but the way the rec department runs right now, so we run a basketball program in the summer. We charge people $200. That $200 times however many kids covers all of the costs of equipment, shirts, the staff that we pay to run it. So that is the same model that I would bring forward to at the community center. Any program we run, it has to sustain itself. So if we run a STEM program and we only have 3 kids in it, and that's all we have, we would cancel and try to maybe offer it at a different day. Now with this community center, we could offer it maybe at a different time, things like that. So that is the financial model that I would bring forward, the same model that we've used forever here in the rec.
I think because it's the timing in some respect that $68 like revenues that are coming in wouldn't be it's not an immediate or direct offset of the $68. So I think what we'd be looking at is looking for certain programs and access to be at no cost, because again, this is funded by the taxpayers. But as our current model operates, you know, exercise classes, there are fees for those. Some things are free, and we certainly always have the ability for you know, scholarships and funding for when that becomes problematic. But that's the model we would look to expand.
Okay.
There is a potential for income generation, but without going forward with this, I don't think there will be a plan.
But even if it's not income, if we quantify the value that it gives to people, then that also softens it, right? So I just think we need to have some harder numbers before we go to the town with this as a concept. It'll get shot down in flames is my estimate.
I believe it's quite different from the library project, because the way I view it is 2 separate departments that do need the space are coming together. So it's not just offering one service, it's multiple. I mean, if you were going to compare from apples to apples kinds of perspective, the major issue there, I mean, one of the major issues there was parking. Like, you were trying to build something huge on a very tiny lot. That part of the vision was difficult for many to grasp, and everything else that came with it. Here you have everything, and like it was said that the rec department is up and running, so that doesn't even entail any uncertainties. But I do agree with you. I would like to know more about what's going to happen, or if there's any way to limit. Because, I mean, if I were to vote today, I know what I'd be voting for, but then that uncertainty would need to be capped. with a yes vote. If there was any potential for that,
Right.
that's something we should definitely
just-
look to answer.
Yeah, understood.
I would sign off and I'd vote yes now,
Yeah.
just with the information you've given me, but $68 is not a lot to me, but to other
Understood.
people, they look at those numbers and they balk.
No, we understand. And I do think all of these questions, we understand why it's reasonable and expected that people have those questions. And it's just, we're trying to identify the challenges of the way this process is working and how quickly it's unfolding doesn't help us in getting all of those answers. But I think the part that we are absolutely committed to is the community engagement so that this doesn't happen, you know, it's a transparent process. The community will have input, and then obviously there is that second, whatever that additional funding is, goes back to town meeting. But I do think we have a sense of certain things, and we are trying to get some estimates. I think we can also look at, you know, I think the biggest thing is the cost of, when you compare the cost of building a facility brand new and what we would pay to acquire this, that's the other, for some people, even though they
that's
don't know
definitely,
those
yeah.
fit-up costs,
Yes.
they see the significant,
It's a great opportunity.
Yeah.
I mean, with all the uncertainties, definitely, especially because, like Alma mentioned, when the senior center was made to what it is now and to what is going to be projected to another 20 years, our town demographics, our population has exponentially changed.
right?
So we definitely need a bigger space for the senior center as well. So
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear about it.
All right. Well, thank you. So again, those slides are up on the website for anybody who's interested in looking more closely at the detail we pulled out of the plans, because I recognize there are an awful lot of words on many of these slides. The board will likely have additional discussion on, they meet on Tuesday, the 26th. And then we are also doing additional presentations in other venues in the community. So hopefully people have lots of opportunity to hear about it before the 16th. I recognize it's 4:30, and I
Yeah.
know, I think Donna had another commitment, so she's no longer.
Yeah, Donna texted she's unable to make it to the meeting, and she dropped off the call, I believe, half an hour ago.
So,
Do we have an update? Do you guys have anything else to add to this, or done? I think you've answered all our questions.
okay, all right. Thanks, Jen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So Kim, are you gonna do the update for the emergency assistant
Sure.
sheltering program?
Yes. Let me see if I can sit back down and mess up Westborough TV. So one of the things I just wanted to update the committee on, you've maybe heard the town is, let me step back. So Massachusetts is a right to shelter state, so they have an emergency assistance shelter program for families who are homeless and qualify. That includes Massachusetts residents as well as new arrivals. The town has a long history of probably a year plus. Families have been sheltered in extended stay hotels in our community for, as I said, a year plus now. Many of those families are supported through a vendor that the state has engaged to provide case management and other services. The more recent arrivals in early August, the state placed 9 families at a hotel in Westborough. These 9 families are new arrivals, and these families are not being supported by those same case management services. So the town has stepped up to support sort of the more immediate pressing basic needs of those individuals. They are members of our community. We have expressed our interest in the state finding ways to provide more support. But in the meantime, those individuals are here. It's 9 families. The town stepped up. There were early on some press releases and a call for support. Amazing support from the community in terms of donations of things like soap, shampoo, some food, some breakfast items, those types of things, and then some clothing items for the families. So I just wanted to, one, recognize and thank the community for their support. We've had a lot of expression of interest in providing additional support from many of our faith organizations and other human service providers in the community. What we've been trying to do at this point, we expect the families will be here through at least the end of the calendar year. So in terms of recognizing their needs, this is a marathon, not a sprint. We have thanked the organizations and basically said, let's figure out as the needs continue or evolve, we'll be back in touch. So one of the things that more recently has been in the news is the state is providing some additional support with the National Guard. There are some things that they are able to provide, but in the meantime, we have these families living in our community. They are being supported. The community has been amazing, and we continue to look for ways for the state to provide additional support. Many of these families have come from crisis situations. They're waiting, they're interested in working, they're waiting for that to be able to do that. So again, just thank you to the community and the staff as well. We've had some staff who have really stepped up to provide support.
Questions?
So I'm pleased to hear this. This is something I was not aware of at all. But so we've got the right to shelter. I assume that means that we have somewhere safe to stay. We have food provided.
Right.
What about other aspects of community and social engagement?
I believe that's why in the typical emergency shelter model, the state provides wraparound and case management services to support that. My understanding from the system has just been overwhelmed, and that's why the state they recognize it is not ideal, but that is why they are having to place families in anywhere they can find hotel rooms to book.
So these are not from Westborough, but families that have been brought to Westborough because there is the opportunity for shelter here?
The state has, yes, the state handles that. One thing that has been ongoing, we've had conversations at different public venues about the Sharp building on the state the state owns the Sharp building on the former Westborough State Hospital property. They are doing some work on that to make it suitable for 20 families to shelter there. That's something that's been in the works for a number of months now. We understand they're looking to open that in the fall. What we don't know is the 20 families that get moved there. Are they the families that are already here? Are they will it be families that the state places that are in shelters in other locations? This is just part of their emergency shelter system that they have readily admitted is just completely overwhelmed right now.
And is that a town-owned building as part of the state hospital?
No, that is still owned by the state. So they are the ones doing the work. The idea is when that opens, that facility would include those additional supports.
Okay. But at the moment we have families that are staying in long-term hotel type environment?
We do. We have, I guess I would characterize it as two types of placements right now. We have those that are in the long-term facilities and are being supported. Then we have the families who are not in a long-term facility and are unsupported. They are new arrivals. And, there are, as you mentioned, many challenges to not having the same level of support. There are language barriers. There are also, it's just less than ideal to be in a room that doesn't have cooking facilities, those types of things. So
And I assume there are children that have access to our school system?
Yes,
Okay.
and have been enrolled.
And you mentioned language issues. Is that being addressed some way directly or not?
One of the things we did, one of our early press releases is they're put out, anyone, Haitian Creole speakers, Portuguese, Spanish. We did have some people who stepped up, volunteered from the community, and were able to help provide translation services. But that is one of the biggest challenges.
Of course, the way I'm thinking is that this is an area that our diversity committee could actively engage in.
Mm-hmm.
This is an area of obvious need within our community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think that one of the challenges right now is the sort of with the families who are the new arrivals, we were really initially talking about basic needs, food, clothing, shelter, medical care, medical assessments. So that as those things have been taken care of over the past month and a half, or at least those things have begun to be taken care of, I think as they have more time in the community and become more settled, to your point, there's an opportunity to understand how do we make them actually feel. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's not just an opportunity, it's a real need then. As time progresses,
Mm-hmm.
then the need for these different sorts of social supports
Right.
becomes greater.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is this information available somewhere, Kim? Is that?
There is a press release under Town News. I think the releases that the town has put out, and I think the town manager had an update. I can find that and
Okay.
share that.
And who within the town organisation has responsibility or continued interaction?
It has our public health director has been heavily involved. Our fire chief is the emergency management director. The town manager, our office. This is something that many municipalities who have found themselves in this situation are just not well equipped to handle. And again, our plea to the state has been, these are individuals who are in our community. We welcome them. We will support them. But one of our concerns right now is this crisis continues to unfold. Additional families are in need of shelter. And if we have more families placed in Westborough, there's a strain on our resources because we also have members of the community that we are serving.
Right.
So.
We can move on to the approval of minutes from the March meeting. Yeah.
I read through the minutes, and I would like to propose that we accept the minutes from the last meeting.
I can second it.
And we need to do a roll call
Yeah.
vote.
We just have two people on. So, yeah. Alma and Chola, would you like to vote? On approval of the
Rashid
minutes?
approve.
Oh, Alma, yes.
Ian Lyons, yes.
Shazia, yes. All right, so they're such approved. Does anybody have any reports on upcoming events? Any achievements? Kim, do you have anything over summer?
We did mention earlier, but I think it bears saying again, our fall town meeting, October 16th, 7 p.m. at the high school. Anyone in need, Alma will be advertising transportation. Seniors in need of transportation can certainly reach out to the senior center. And I think we are having conversation about childcare as well. One of the topics of discussion at this committee in the past has been around town meeting, specifically the placement of articles on the warrant relating to the time at which they may come up for discussion. The board has already had a request from the Advisory Finance Committee to move the purchase of 1500 Union Street up in the warrant so that it's taken up at a more reasonable hour. So the board will close the warrant on Tuesday night, and that's when they will determine the placement of the articles.
Paula, do you have anything at the library? Any announcements?
We just have a survey online where you can go in and give your opinion on what you want to see, because we're, I think, doing like a renovation of the library. So just urge everybody to go on our website and do the survey.
Thank you.
And that's on the town's website, on the library's page.
It's on our westboroughlibrary.org.
Thank you.
All right, with that,
So are we likely to have the library renovation ask and this building purchase ask at the same town meeting? Are they likely? No. Good.
No.
any other questions, comments? If not, I call to close the meeting today. Thank you, everyone.
So you just need a motion to adjourn and then
Yeah.
a roll call vote.
Well, I'd like to propose a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
I'll second it.
Should I call
Kala, yes.
Alma?
Yes.
Yes.
Shazia, yes. And we're adjourned. Thank you.